Here we go. Awesome. All right. Yeah, finally got everything ready. Ooh. Is this your first semester in the MBA program, G?
No, I started uh, spring two semester of last year.
Spring. Oh, I see. Spring 2000.
So March 2000,
Yeah,
or I'm sorry, of this year. I'm sorry.
yeah, it's a little confusing, right? It's like 22, 23,
You know,
or
you lose track of what year it is.
yeah. All right, all right. You've been taking like two classes a module, or
Yes.
just one? Yeah. Ooh, man, yeah, that's rough. It's very
It
rough.
wasn't too hard. This was the actual first semester where it was really, really tough. And mainly, well, due to that one class I was complaining about. But
Yeah,
uh,
Mark 6310. That's a
yes.
rough class. Yeah. Even with the other teachers, Vasquez, like it's probably like the hardest class in the entire program, to be honest.
Mm.
It's like the workload. Yeah. Like on one is I think you guys got a pretty rough teacher, and because normally it's Vasquez, and he's tough, and the workload is like double the workload of like the other of a normal MBA class.
Hmm.
And yeah, so he used to be like the hardest teacher like that I've taken, or the hardest class, the most difficult class that I've taken, that most people like talk about like in the program. And it seems your class, your 6310 would what's his name?
Let me look at. I don't know how it's pronounced. It's spelled Fuat. Um,
Firat. Yeah, would Firat. Firat.
Fuat, and then yeah, Firat is the last name. Yes.
Yeah, with him, like what was I gonna say? It's like he's he's from what I'm seeing, or from what I'm hearing, he seems to be more difficult than Vasquez. I think it's because, like, I don't know, like I think well, my understanding is that, like, he probably just copied like a lot of the same workload as Vasquez, like the same stuff. You know what I mean? Like they just, that's what a lot of
That's
teachers
correct.
do.
He pretty much used this. Everything was the same,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
except he really wasn't familiar with well, he does not appear to be familiar with the textbook and what
Yeah.
the program or what the syllabus was actually supposed to be doing. So he kind of put the information out there, but really wasn't sure himself of all the interpretations. And then a lot of the information that was put out was frankly incorrect.
Yeah.
And so everybody, and he didn't know it was incorrect. To give him, to kind of give him, I won't say credit, but
Yeah.
it wasn't all malicious, put it that way. But it didn't help
Yeah.
that he,
I feel like they kind of just threw him in the wolves, threw him in the
yes.
woods, something like that, and he didn't really. Maybe he
And I
wasn't
think this
like.
was the first time he was doing the online program. So a lot of it was all new to him: new textbook, new syllabus, new program. Just
Yeah, new technology.
and I think to make a conjecture to defend him, they may have not told him about what all was involved, and he may have come in thinking, "Oh, it's just going to be nothing because I'm not having to come
Yeah.
in and teach any classes, so I can easily handle this." Found out, no, there's a little bit of work on your end, and so it's probably a little bit surprising for him too. I don't think he was enjoying
Yeah.
himself either.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why it seems like it's going on. He just like cut and paste or copy pasted like whatever Vasquez had going, and maybe like was too harsh of a grader or something. Because Vasquez was like a lot of work, but he wasn't like too harsh of a grader. Like,
Well, and it really wasn't the harshness. It was more. It was almost random. You would
Oh,
write something mediocre. He'd give you 100 on it. You'd
oh.
put a lot of effort into it, but since he was grading on, in my opinion, grading on something other than our textbook, and
Mhm.
we weren't saying what was in whatever he was basing the grade on, he was giving a poor grade, even though we all thought we were doing good work. And so it was that randomness that was also very
like
stressful. Is you never really know.
inconsistency. Do you guys have a TA or a coach or something like that? They have like different, you know what I mean?
There's supposed to be one, but I have never been interacted with this person. I do not have their email.
Because like in some of the classes, that's what I've seen is like I only interact with like the TAs, like the teachers, like usually like too busy, or like they take care of like the bigger picture stuff, and then like the TAs actually like are the ones actually interacting with like the students or talking to us and whatever, you know, or grading or something like that. Like they'll go over our papers and whatnot, but sometimes it could be that.
Well, and that's been another conjecture that maybe the TA is the one giving all the hundreds and he's giving all
maybe,
the poor grades.
Wait, you're taking okay, 6310. What was the other class that you're taking?
QUMT 6310.
Oh yeah. Okay, I gotta ask, how's that class?
Up until last week, it was a breeze. Now, some of it's because I've been doing some of these things all the years, and that's what also ran into a lot of the classes. Since it wasn't new, okay, I don't really consider it hard, but also I have a friend keeps slapping me upside the head. Yeah, it's not hard for you because you've been doing it all these years. That particular one, because I've dealt with a little bit of statistics. So up till the last 4 chapters, it was pretty easy. These last 4 chapters have been extremely difficult. And then
because you're unfamiliar with it.
Yeah, I'm thinking even if you're familiar with it, some of the problem may be is the book is using the results of some more complex math, but they're not explaining all. It's more, okay, here's this formula, just use it. Okay, what is the formula doing? Don't worry about it, you just use it. Well, so I'm kind of, okay, I understand, I can repeat from the book. In this case, you use this formula, but I don't understand why. I don't understand why this particular analysis is better than another one. And I think for the class, as long as you just are familiar with the concepts and can repeat what's in the book, well, you'll get an A.
Yeah.
It's just bothering me because I don't feel like I truly understand it. If it's any consolation, nobody else in the class seems to be able to either. So at least I'm not alone.
Yeah, I have the same thing with 6303 right now. It's 6303 is like the predecessor to 6310. And it's like I asked someone who was taking 6310 like how dependent it was, and they're like, oh yeah, it's very dependent. And I was actually exempt from because I took like stats class.
Oh, okay. I was looking up the plan as you were speaking to pull it up. Okay, yeah. Well, and that may be another problem that I'm having is because I was exempt from the undergrad degree, which I took during the Clinton administration. So
yeah.
It's been a few years, and I've slept a couple times since then. So
yeah. What? Let's see. How's the what kind of stuff are you guys going over? Like because let me see. Like here, I wonder if it's like practically the same thing or if it's somewhat different. Like we're going over like the data manipulation, hypothesis testing, inference, population variance, ANOVA.
Well, that's what it mostly is. I guess it's probably what it may be is just more application of it. So it's more real life use,
like
use
in a
of
business
these concepts as opposed to just, okay, what it does. Okay, now you know what it does. Now let's use it.
Like in a business setting, kind of?
Yes.
Oh.
So it's a lot of, there's a lot of scenarios. They'll give you the information. Okay, here's the text or the textual background of what's going on. Here are the numbers. What do you think's happening? And it's a bit of thinking. It's not a whole lot of writing. It's really not, like I said, it's not that complex. But
for you, maybe.
You have to be able to apply it.
I feel like I had the same issue um with the INFS classes, the analytics classes, because I've been working with like with R and Python like a lot before going to the MA program, so I kind of like have a pretty good grasp for like some familiarity with it
Mhm.
with the software and the tech, but like a lot of people like don't. So to me, I'm like, oh, this is easy. Like I've done this before, and a lot of people are like this one lady was like, oh no, it's hard. Like analytics is hard. I'm not doing that. Like like so I kind of get that whole thing where it's like it may be easy for you, but for others like
Mhm.
they didn't take this before. They're not familiar with it, so the learning curve for them is like is a lot is a lot more like whereas for me maybe I might feel it's like, oh, this is pretty easy, it's a breeze. Like
Mhm.
I have that feeling with this class, with these with the stats class. I'm like because I mean I'm familiar with the software, I'm familiar with R, but I'm not familiar with the like the underlying concepts or like the just the underlying stats stuff, like and some things are pretty
See, I
straightforward.
actually
Yeah,
had the opposite issue in
yeah,
that
yeah.
so I was familiar with the concepts, but I have never used the R language.
Mhm.
Had not that. Then that's one thing that was the biggest thing I noticed coming back to school and in the intervening years is
Uh-huh.
the analytics software has really changed in the interim and really improved, at least from
Wait,
what I used before.
you never used R professionally?
No, well, I wasn't. I really wasn't doing any analytics professionally. It was more somebody else would do the analysis. Okay, give me the results, and then I would look over and okay, do I agree with their interpretation or do I think, well, what's this over here show us? And more light level, I guess, analysis than the actual
Oh,
low level data acquisition and
like the programming and all that, and the yeah, yeah, I know you. No, that's interesting. Yeah, because it's more like R is more like statistical software, and it's I don't know, it's pretty um I don't know if it's recent, but it's been around for a while.
mm,
So
it may have been it
it's
was out there and we just never used it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we in one of the classes, I think it was which one was it? I think in INFS 6330.
Mhm.
Um, we were using the SAS
Oh, the
online version.
SAS,
Yeah,
yeah.
that well, I had a blast with it. It's a little tough. I mean, especially
I
because they
didn't
had
like
come
it.
out with they had just revised the software right before the class started. So even the professor really didn't know they had changed a lot of it, and
Was it
so
like
all the instructions
the
didn't
SAS
apply.
cloud?
Yes.
Was that like the SAS cloud software?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's probably I don't know. I didn't like that one.
Oh,
The software. I didn't like this. I don't know. It just it felt very how should I say it? It felt very like not as like I guess low level. Like it's very high level, I guess. So it's like I don't know. I prefer more like the R like
it's more for as I call it, people trying to make the pretty reports.
yeah, yeah.
You're trying to make it pretty.
Yeah, there's not a lot of programming involved for sure. Yeah, yeah.
But I had fun with it, and it was I found it pretty powerful. The worst thing is the user interface. It's almost like they took three different pieces of software and crammed them together. And so, first of all, there'd be multiple tracks that you could actually accomplish the same thing, except depending on which track you were going on, some of the functions work, some of them don't.
Yeah.
So if you would like import the data from one way, then you could do this to it. But if you import it this way, I mean, the data is in there, it's in the system. Why does it matter how you imported it? Why should that
Yeah.
affect what kind of analysis or what kind of functions you can apply to it? But it does. And I
Yeah,
think
it's
they
really
haven't
annoying.
really actually worked out as look,
Yeah.
there's all these different ways to do it. We want to make sure there's a unified system that the same function will work the same on everything. But I guess that's why they're always coming out with updates, changing it, is trying to
Right.
fix those
Right.
issues. But,
Yeah, I
but
guess that's what I didn't like about it. It didn't feel as cohesive as R. Like R is like, this very um it's like it's just it doesn't feel like it's like hodgepodge and just like hodgepodge just like put together or whatever. Like it feels like a more solid, like self-standing
okay.
program, like as opposed to that, like I was like, because yeah, I remember using that for one class. What was it, like maybe QUM2? No, it was like a while back. I'm trying to remember which one it was. In INFS class. 6330. Was that what it was?
Yes.
6330?
I
INFS,
think so. Hold on. Let me get back over there and check as I'm jumping around between
like
windows.
information systems for managers.
6330. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I remember using that. I was like, what am I? uh yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the software for sure.
Hmm.
But SAP Analytics. Yeah, SAP Analytics Cloud. Hmm, uh, yeah. Yeah, I don't
So
know about that.
so I assume you're working on MBA. You're working on analytics
Yeah.
specialty, or
That's my specialization. But I already finished
specialization courses?
the electives, which I don't know. I do everything backwards. Like the
No,
actual electives
that's
and all
very smart because they
taking a prereq.
don't offer them all the time. Like the
That's
accounting
true.
courses are only offered, each one's only offered once a year, or at least they were
That's
this
a good
past
point.
year.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point because you got to prioritize your electives
So if you
because
miss it,
yeah, you got to wait another year and man. So and core classes they offering them like every other module, like at least
yes.
once a semester. So that's like that's like a train. Like you miss one, another one will come up. Like, and even sometimes like um they'll offer them like for two modules because like I guess some classes are just really popular and enough students like request it.
Mhm.
So like this one right now, 6300 QM, the class I'm taking right now, I don't think it's normally offered like for this
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Which one?
module.
Which one are you taking?
6303.
Oh, okay. That's a
QM.
prerequisite.
Like if you look at the course carousel, like I don't think it's on there. Like it's not offered like let's see. Let me look it up.
It's an INFS class or
Yeah,
QUMT.
yeah. Let me grab it. I mean, let's pull it up.
Yeah. So far they've been pretty good about letting me take all these other electives without saying anything. The one time they slapped my hand is they would not let me take INFS 6350 unless that's my
Huh. Let me see
actual
what that
declared
is.
specialty. That was the only one that they actually stopped me for.
Let me see. INFS. Let me see which one was that. I think I've taken 6351. 63. Oh, business intelligence and data warehousing. Oh yeah. I took that together with 6330 a couple of semesters back. Yeah, I took that. It's not that hard. I mean,
Well, see, I thought it would be useful just with the general IT background I have, but yeah, they wouldn't let me take it
why not?
because I'm not a analytics specialty
Oh, gotcha. You're in
specialization.
accounting. You're accounting specialty.
Well, okay, I've already finished the healthcare management specialization,
Yeah.
and I've got one more class I'm taking the next semester for to finish up the accounting, and then I'll have to choose which one I want on the actual degree. Now, what's funny is I'm the job I'm getting ready to start is an accounting job in healthcare, so it's
Yeah.
which one would be better?
Probably. Yeah, I would if I had to guess, it probably healthcare, but that's more like specialized. But
Well,
it's a
most
different
of
thing.
I guess it depends on how people look at it. I was looking at the healthcare. The thing is, the healthcare is mainly most of the classes are focused on hospital management.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
But there's so much more to healthcare. But if you're applying for a small doctor's practice or something, well, they don't know that. So, so
yeah.
I thought a lot of it was very, very limited. So from behind the scenes, I would say, oh, healthcare would be less useful. But to the outsiders, they probably view it, assuming I want to stay in the healthcare industry,
Mhm.
which there's one thing to go for it. It's extremely economically dependent, and that the demand's always there. No matter what the economy is doing, people still
Oh,
have to come in
yeah.
for healthcare. So
The
it's not like a job you got to worry about. Oh,
job
well,
security.
sales are down, so we're going to start go out and lay 20% of you off this year.
My I have a friend who's like an accountant, and he was telling me how accounting is basically this has a similar um thing to it. Like it's kind of
Well,
like there's
that's true
always,
also. Mhm.
yeah, like there's always demand for accounting. Like
Well, yeah, they need you when it's
it's
good, and then when it's bad, well, you still got to be there. You still got to still got to figure out what we need to shut down.
Yeah, that's what he was telling me. It's like with the business concentrations like finance and accounting and management and marketing. Like accounting has like the best job security.
Mhm.
And yeah, out of all like the concentrations, that's what he was telling me. Like there's always a need for accountants. I'm like, I don't know if that's true or not or whatever. But
No,
it
that
seems
that
like it is.
that's
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah,
Now, maybe not at the lower levels, that,
yeah.
that they'll go, but at least at the upper levels, that you're kind of always going to be there, and all the way through bankruptcy, and you'll still be there handling all that part of it.
Oh man. Yeah, I was like thinking, speaking of bankruptcy, have you been following the FTX debacle?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think? What what are your thoughts on that?
In my opinion, the whole darn industry is a nothing but a Ponzi scheme. So
The crypto industry?
to me, it was going to happen
Hmm.
because the only way all of them well, other than the purpose of illegal transfer of funds, in terms of an investment type activity, it's purely Ponzi. It's only going to function as long as people are putting money in, because there is no underlying value. So if you want to take your money out, because the founders, as soon as people put money in, they're taking it out themselves. And so at any one point, there's very little cash actually present. So if you want to take your money out, where that's got to come from is somebody else, a new sucker coming in and putting money in. There's
Well,
no value.
I mean, that's. I mean, like it's kind of like the run on the
I'm a
run on the bank,
conservative
right?
old cranky guy, so
No, I mean, I get you. I mean, like you probably. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with like fractional reserve banking too, right?
I'm
Like
sorry, with what banking?
like FRB, fractional reserve banking. Like
Oh, yes.
yeah, like if you have like $1 million in the bank, you can't just walk into the bank and like withdraw all like $1 million in cash. Like the banks don't even hold that
Right,
much
but at
in
least the
cash.
banks have, worst possible case, they can go straight to the Fed and borrow from them. There's at least some underlying support structure that's ultimately, I mean, yes, I've seen the arguments. Yes, ultimately it's all fiat money. Well, that's kind of true, but at least
Oh,
with the,
what you mean is that the Fed can just print up some more, like if they need to.
I mean, ultimately, yes, at least when the Fed prints up some more, it is accepted other places. There's other people that
Oh yeah, that's true. I guess we don't. Crypto doesn't have a Federal Reserve Bank
Mhm.
that can just print money out of thin air.
So if these, I mean, if these exchanges that actually kept all the cash in from day one,
Mhm.
um, and not expanded in terms of value beyond the initial investment, well, then it would be a far more secure former currency. But the fact it's not. I mean, the valuation's just kind of okay. How many bitcoins are times the current price? But that's not a lot of the money that went in was early, and so when they're paying in a little bit of money, all of a sudden, just because the value went up, well, that money that you went in didn't go up.
Yeah, there's there's a strange. It's a little bit like it's a little like the spot price. You mean like it's a little bit like kind of like how stocks or like commodities work, like where
So if you had 1 million people that bought it at $10,
yeah.
and then one person comes in and buys it at 1,000, the way they're claiming the valuation is now 1,000,001 times 1,000. Well, no, it was 1 million at $10 plus one at 1,000, but that's not the way it was portrayed.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they use some kind of like some kind of like EMA, right? Or some kind of like a moving average to figure that out. Like they're not gonna go with
Not
like
from what
that
I've
the
seen.
peak price. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I know you. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Like some people will use the peak price, like, oh, it peaked at like 100,000 or 60,000. So but if
Well,
like
well,
most,
the same thing happens with market capitalization with stocks.
Mhm. Yeah.
If the stock goes up, well, they're saying the company's more valuable, but ultimately the company didn't make any more money.
Oh yeah,
The
like
company makes
GME,
money from
right? Like
profits, not
GameStop.
based on what the stock's doing. Now, the stockholders are owners of the company; they want the stock to go up. So, yeah, ultimately, the value of the company is just what the profit it's making.
What's that saying? There's a saying that the stock price is not the company or something like that. Like there like I guess like this was like regarding the whole GameStop uh Robinhood thing, where it was like yeah, sure, like the stock price went crazy and people were just pumping it like all stupid, but but I read somewhere that was like the stock price is not, this is a time when you got to remember that the stock price is not
Not the
is not,
company.
yeah, yeah, like it's not the actual valuation. I mean, someone may valued it at that price, but just because one person did that doesn't mean that
Well, in the finance course,
Mhm.
Finance 6340, they did a. I wish it would have been stressed more strongly, but they did try to hit on that. Is that ultimately the value of a company is its future profits? When you're trying to value what you're saying, it's yes, it's more than what it's
Oh,
making right now, but it's based on the assumption it's going to continue to make money, and that's where the value is
potential.
coming from, is from these profits. Now, how you
Potential.
value it, it's all, now there's all sorts of, what's your personal return you're looking for? What do you think the market's going to do? So there's all these other things that go into it, but ultimately that's what you're trying to value it at.
I don't
And
know.
so they
I
did
feel like
pretty
the way
good.
the tech valuations for tech companies are just are kind of ridiculous. Like
Well, that's
in the '90s, the dot-com bubble, they were like, oh, eyeballs. That was like they were selling
okay.
eyeballs.
Well, that was when I went to college before.
Yeah. So yeah,
I,
yeah.
I had well,
Mhm,
he wasn't a PhD, he was just a master's, but a finance professor
mhm,
who was just going on and on about, oh yeah, the tech stocks, this is blah blah blah, it's a new economy.
mhm.
And so I was arguing with him.
Was it
Well,
bullish or
okay, it's a new
bearish?
economy, they're not making money. So where's the profits going to come from? Oh, profits, that's an obsolete, concept. This is the new economy. We don't have to worry about things like that because we're just going to outgrow it, and the biggest are going to survive, and that just means they're going to be successful. Yeah,
I,
of
I
the hundreds, there were a few handful that were successful. Most of them lost everything.
yeah, I mean, he wasn't wrong there. That did actually have that is how it kind of panned out. I do remember that was the argument. Was that um these companies are gonna take over like all of media, and it's gonna be a new CNN, and like all the old media is gonna become irrelevant. And I mean, you know, like for example, Netflix and Blockbuster, right? Like nobody really saw that coming, or no. Amazon just was selling books, and I don't think they put Barnes and Noble out of business yet. But,
Well, the booksellers, in my opinion, that was more their own fault. When
okay,
Amazon started coming in, started trying to buy up the market.
so Amazon didn't kill Barnes and Noble, but they did kill the mall
Well, a lot of them they
and
self-destructed.
department stores.
What I saw happening for a lot of the
Uh-huh.
booksellers is instead of being a bookseller, they started panicking about Amazon, and then started essentially they stopped stocking books. Okay, you're a bookseller. Why aren't you selling books? So no, it's expensive to stock. So all they would have is just like the top 10 in each category. You walked in and they'd have all these copies of the same book. But I was used to, okay, going to the book shop for one book. If it wasn't on the top bestseller list, well, they don't have it. At the same time, I'd browse around, maybe see something else. Well, they didn't have all these other things to happen. And they all started doing that at the same time. Well, I mean, you can see my
And in your background,
what you see behind me. Okay, that goes up 16 feet high and
So
goes
you
around
still
three walls of a
buy and
room.
read physical books? Like that's
Yes.
still a thing? Yeah, yeah. Okay,
So-
wait, but do you read through it, or do
Oh
you
yeah,
just
yeah.
like?
I've read all of them multiple times, and
Hmm.
so yeah, I'm a big book buyer, and so I saw that happening. Is that they just stopped stocking them, and so they were losing out first of all on my sales. Not just the sales for the book I was going for, but the other books that I'd maybe browse around and say, hey, this looks interesting. I'll take that home and read, because they don't have them. And when I would talk to the booksellers about it, they say, well, we can order it for you. Well, I'm not going there to order a book. I can sit at home and do that on Amazon. Why should I have to walk in and order it? And that's my opinion.
Yeah, it's
what I saw.
interesting. I mean, like I hardly ever buy books on Amazon. Like, I mean, no, not Amazon, in Barnes and Noble, and I feel like for me it's something about the experience of like it's a physical place you can go and hang out and chill and drink coffee and stuff. I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of people who just like kind of freeload and just kind of like sit at the tables and like do their homework and stuff and whatever. Like
Mhm.
a lot of people do that at coffee shops. They kind of treat it as a like a co-working space pretty much.
Mhm.
Or a like a second office or something where they just like get work done. But I don't know. I feel like that's like the value proposition, right? Because you can't do that with Amazon. Like have like a physical brick and mortar place. It's like Barnes and Noble is like it's more like the experience, right? It's kind of like the Starbucks experience.
Mhm.
It's that whole thing, and I don't
And
know.
they kept it up, and they were one of the few bookshops, at least
Mhm.
back in Houston when I lived there, that was actually doing that.
Mhm.
Well, Barnes and Nobles and also book stops. I don't know if there was one down here. They were the first one of the big mega bookstores.
But half price books
Well, other than half price
in
books, yeah.
Dallas.
Um,
Let me tell you something. So my friend, he's like really into half price books. This is the thing he does. Well, not this was before we discovered half price books, but he likes to get like autographs, like signed books from
mhm,
of yeah, like the authors and stuff. Like he likes to get, because just like
mhm,
book signings, author signings, stuff like that, and he likes to collect like those things. And he realized that since half price books is like they're used books, right?
mhm,
So what he does is he goes there and he looks through the books and he looks for ones that have that are signed,
mhm,
and have some kind of yeah, like where the author like autograph from the author and everything. And he's found some like really good deals there, like Tom Clancy and like all these
mhm.
like like really valuable really valuable authors, really valuable autographs and stuff. So I thought it was a pretty interesting strategy,
Mhm.
for finding value and whatnot.
It's also kind of
But
funny if you were following Amazon, when they were first coming in and trying to buy their way into the market, they had huge discounts.
mhm.
Well, that was something else I saw, is that after the a lot of the other booksellers shut down, Amazon doesn't offer the discounts they used to. They went ahead and
Yeah.
raised their prices right back
Mm.
up. Now,
Like
the one good thing that Amazon still does is you don't have to go to half price books. They do link you into a lot of used booksellers. And
oh
so that's
yeah. Yeah, they do that. I used to do that like with textbooks and stuff. But I don't know.
and so that's where a lot of the books I got, I'll actually buy them used. And usually the
I
conditions are pretty much as they describe it. So I've never actually had a book where I actually had to, no, I take it back. I had one maybe that I actually had to return because the condition was just so bad.
I had the only book the series that I was like really into from my childhood was Dune. So
Mm-hmm.
I used to read that like and I didn't like the new covers, so I had to go online like on eBay or something to find the old covers, like the
Mm-hmm.
ones like that I grew up with, not the new ones. But anyway, so they're kind of old and I mean they were used, but they were in really good condition. Like I don't think that the guy even read these books, but
Mm-hmm.
but they were just old, so they were like a little fragile, you know, and not exactly. And I was like, I don't exactly want to read it. Like, well, I didn't want to like damage it, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to keep it like in fairly pristine condition. So instead, not yeah, I have like the collection. I have my little collection and I hide it away. But I what I actually read is the digital, the
Oh,
PDFs
right, right.
from online. Like I have the books, I just don't want to touch them. So I just read them on my phone. So
Well, and the other thing
stupid.
about digital is if you ever get in a job or just condition where you're flying a lot,
Hmm.
let me tell you, carrying iPad's a lot lighter than carrying even just a few textbooks in your
Oh, for sure,
luggage.
for sure. Yeah, it's a godsend. I love like digital. Like I just like reading things on my phone or on tablet. It's just actually no. There is one advantage to print to paper books or whatever, and that
Sunlight.
is huh
Like you
yeah
say, you read it in
yeah
sunlight.
in yeah if you're like in full sunlight like yeah if it's like super bright somewhere and yeah, that's like the one advantage I will say like that paper has over over a screen. But
Hmm.
I don't know, I kind of like screens because like if it's dark, I kind it's like you could just kind of lower the dark, you could kind of control the brightness. You don't It doesn't have to be as high, and you can just kind of read it like it just there's like a backlight, and it's comfortable. It's easier than having a light shining on a piece of paper,
Hmm.
something like that. And I guess graphics are nicer like when they're printed out too. I'll admit that. Like if it's like something like a photo book, or something like that, where it's like all these fancy graphics.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got to take this phone call.
Go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Okay. Share my screen. Oh, that's weird. Just share this. Hmm. Options, breakout rooms, hide video panel, hide floating meeting controls, optimize info. I have to change it. Let's see. Facebook live on games. This hide video panel. No, I don't think that's it. Put that back. Info, optimize the video clip. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see, how does this work? Video, a thumbnail. Just being aware. Do a virtual background. Let's see. Oh, well.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's fine. It's fine. Trying to figure out how to put my screen, but
Well, you were showing your screen for a moment.
yeah. But yeah, I've been trying to figure out how to. I don't know. I'll figure it out later. It's kind of weird. But yeah, no, I've been following this whole FTX thing like for a while, and it's what are we talking about? Brick and mortar versus that's right, versus retail versus online tech companies. I was joking with Matt earlier this week that it's like you haven't made it as a tech company unless you have unless you've got an antitrust. You know what I mean? Because that's like their whole business model, right? It's like they'll like they undercut the competition, they grow suit, they get crazy like market share, become a monopoly, and that's how they figure. That's like their strategy for you know for owning the market, I guess, or like for cornering the market. But it always ends like Microsoft, has like the antitrust thing, and so they had to.
Well, on
do
the
that.
business side, we used to call it it was the Microsoft lesson.
The Microsoft lesson?
Because at first, a lot of the tech industry, they ignored the East Coast. We don't need Wall Street for financing. We can go on NASDAQ. We don't need Washington and all their regulations. We'll just do our own thing. So they
NASDAQ a San Francisco thing? Is that what it was? It was like a Silicon Valley thing.
Mm-hmm. And so they kind of ignored it. Well, until all of a sudden the government started noticing them and then started coming in on threatening Microsoft on antitrust areas. Well, they learned their lesson quick. Before that point, they spent, most of those companies spent almost nothing on lobbyists and all these
like
lawyers and everything. They learned their lesson
risk
fast, and they started spending a ton of money.
We had the same thing in the crypto space. Because like the regulatory risk was always like an issue, right? They would always talk about that, and it was just like should probably learn our lesson from like all these like all the shady like businesses like oil and pharma and tobacco. And like yeah, they got like a bunch of lobbyists, like every major industry. Like that's kind of, I guess that's how you manage like regulatory risk is
Unfortunately, that's the way you get heard. Now, that's and
you get those politicians.
People say, "Oh, it's the evil capitalist system." No, it's that way everywhere, and it's always been that way in history. You've always had these special interest groups that have the ear of the king or whoever who's trying to get all these special programs just for them, so they can make money off of it. And it's human nature. It's always.
I would argue that's the in the modern day, that's kind of like the difference between socialism and capitalism. Or that's how my Chinese colleagues, like, that's what they like to say, is that there's a guys, like it's like here in America, it's like here in America, business like private interests, businesses um control Washington, right? The business interests, like you have your lobbyists and like the money, like that's they control Washington that way. Whereas like in communist China, like it's not like some people, people will complain and say, oh, it's overbearing and the party is like but that's how they differentiate between their socialist form of government and our capitalist.
Although,
Like they have, yeah, they force like
China, China's
board seats.
and arguably is in some ways a more open capitalist system than the U.S. is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's even more so that, okay, if you have money, then you don't have to follow any of the laws, or at least if you have a one of the party officials in your pocket, you don't have to follow any of the rules or regulations. But most of my friends who are involved heavily in politics, that's kind of their view, is that, well, what the Chinese government did is they said, well, okay, yes, we're going to make all these rules to control your life, but we'll let you make as much money as you want. And that's why they're the manufacturing capital of the world, just about.
Made in China 2050 or something like that, or 2035. That's the world's factory. That's their goal right now. Their 5-year plan or something. I don't remember what it was exactly. But yeah, that's interesting. I'm not really sure like how I've heard that America is trying to bring to onshore chip manufacturing back here, trying to bring back like the manufacturing of like semiconductors and stuff back into the US instead of offshoring it. They're trying to, that's like the thing as onshore, but the big thing is that it has to be like heavily subsidized, right, by the government. But they need like a ton of like government subsidies, because that's what these Asian countries do. Also, that's what all these like Chinese and Japanese and Koreans, like the government like heavily subsidizes these industries to
somewhat, but if you think about it,
kind of like our farms, like American farms, like
all these hundreds of millions of dollars in sports stadiums and office buildings, and those all get built without government money.
What do you mean?
I'm saying if they wanted to build it here, they would do it. The government funding may be an incentive to build a factory here, but really these companies, they could do it if they really wanted to. What I see is the issue is it's less the cost of manufacturing, because everything I've read, actually, in terms of manufacturing efficiency in direct cost, the cost of materials and direct cost of labor, it's not actually that much more expensive to do it here. And as a matter of fact, and then when you counter in the cost of having to transport goods back in, a lot of times it's cheaper. So it's not the actual cost of manufacturing, it's everything else, of dealing with the regulation, especially the risk of being sued, the insurance company to cover for you the risk of being sued. All of these things add on to all these overhead costs. Whereas if you're contracting out to a factory overseas, you don't care. It's not.
Can't deal with it.
In China, I won't say there's no lawyers, but you don't have somebody gets injured and it's like winning the lottery. You now get millions of dollars because of that. If lucky, you get a few $100s and they throw you out in the street.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I got one of these class action things in the mail. One of these like T-Mobile data breach settlement. Speaking of lawsuits,
about that though, yeah, class action. It's lawyers make millions, and you get $25 or a coupon for a free.
Yeah, something like that, bar. Or whatever. But That's what we get here in the States. So these companies are all moving overseas, so they don't have to give people these little
Oh.
candy bars.
Well, hey, I've got a lot of things I got to prepare for.
Mhm.
So this was an interesting meeting. I'll try to catch up later and
For sure.
on future weeks, be able to catch it from out of town.
For sure. Likewise,
So,
likewise. Yeah.
well, this organization is getting more and more interesting. So I had a good time at the event last week and then attending the meeting. So
yeah. It's I mean it's if it's like I post a lot of things that interest. I don't know if you ever follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook. Um
no, I haven't. I've been I'm on the WhatsApp
yeah on WhatsApp,
link.
but I don't know
So
what
I've
social
seen
media
that, but
you're at. Yeah.
I'll have to join in on those two and see what's going on.
I don't know what social media you're most active on. Like, what are you like, you on Facebook or LinkedIn, or what are you big on?
Probably Facebook, but it's not something I go.
That's
I go to a
it's
lot.
an older generation thing. It really is.
Well, it's more. I
Late millennials
just don't
and
have time.
boomers are
Oh
no,
yeah,
it's
mainly on Facebook. It's all the geezers. Yeah, yeah.
That's all
Um,
I interact with on
I
Facebook.
don't want to hang around a bunch of people like me. Why would I hang around? I do that? Um, uh,
Uh,
well, this may be more of a geezer thing. I'm, the main purpose of it is for them to get information about you. Now, I'm not the paranoid. Oh God, they're going to use it. It's just their purpose
hat.
is to advertise to you. Well, I get enough advertising as it is. I don't want to make it easier for them.
Now I'm thinking about it, like looking around at all the crap I've been buying recently. Maybe it is been kind of working. I know I'm a sucker for things, man. Like, I don't know, there's certain things. I guess they figured out like what I'm a sucker for.
Mhm.
So now they like the ads are like more relevant. What that really means is that once you buy something and they figure out what your weakness is, then they'll start hitting you with more of the same thing, because they know you're like a sucker for these kinds of like items or deals or whatever.
Mhm.
And they know you're like, yeah, this guy, we can get him on this and that. And yeah, I think I've been buying a bunch of stupid crap that I'm like, wait, I didn't really need this, but sometimes I guess I kind of need it. I don't know, it was on sale, I don't know, but I don't know. No, it's their algorithm. At first I didn't believe it. I was fighting it. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna be dumb, and I'm not gonna give them like any information. And it's just like I'm just garbage in, right? I'm just gonna give them like garbage information, and they're never gonna figure out my psychology. But thinking back now at like all the crap I've been buying for the holidays, I'm like,
We tell you, it's listening.
there, yeah. No, really,
give it.
really.
No, there's been plenty of times I'll be talking about something and I go to pull up Google on the computer and there's a link to what I've been talking about. So it's.
Oh yeah, they definitely do that. They definitely
They are listening
on your conversations. Yeah. It's that, yeah, especially like smartphones are the word. Yeah, people like don't think so, but these are things that are like basically little spy machines.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible. Yeah, dystopia. It's like everything. I feel like everything that they predicted back in like the 90s and 1984, and like the dystopia that we were living in. This was like all predicted. I mean, back in the day, they made it seem like it was going to be utopia, what we have now with Netflix and Amazon and all this stuff. Like, this was just like a pipe dream back in the 90s, right? Like when we used to have like real TV or real time or whatever, and this was just kind of like, it was like ahead of its time. No one had like really had broadband back then. Streaming video, like it was just, yeah, I don't know. Like people, it wasn't ready for
Mm-hmm.
It was like, so the underlying technology, like the broadband like thing, wasn't really built out yet, so it wasn't. It was still a little bit behind, but yeah, yeah. The dream. This is like we're living in the future, which for better or for worse.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for sure, for sure.
Well, like I
All
said,
right,
I've got
Gene.
to get going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was good talking to you. It was good talking to you. But
Take care.
all right, you too. You too. Have a good one. Bye.
You too.